Cheers guys, welcome back to another video. And today we're going into changing your personality in order to change your reality. A lot of people talk about this. Neville Goddard uses the language "die to the old man," right? And Joe Dispenza, this is Joe Dispenza's way of saying it: change your personality to change your reality. I mentioned recently that I'm going through his online course right now, and I'm kind of going to give you guys like some golden nuggets, essentially break down the sauce from his course for free. He goes into a lot of the science, a lot of this is why, this is the theory of it, but essentially I'm going to break down exactly like all the juiciest bits so that you guys can get like the most value and the value that I've gotten out of going through his course. So essentially, if you're familiar with Joe Dispenza, he comes at this from like a pretty neuroscience-y type background. And he's got, all the stats, all the graphs about the brain making new connections and the science of epigenetics, which essentially is the science of this, like that your cells, you change on a cellular level. There is such a thing as cellular change. So we are born with our, our DNA and our genetics and all of this, but the science of epigenetics is how we actually impact and change those genetics. So it's happening on a physical level. And again, this brings us back to the conversation that, this is like, we can talk about the spiritual element and the intangible, and that is really the power. That is where we get our power. And as you'll see, that's what we're going to discuss here in a bit. The physical world, though, we are not divorced from the physical world. So it does have an impact in our physical. And by dwelling in using our, like in the words that he uses, the language he uses, in a world, entering in a state where we are not matter, where we are entering into the world of thought, that is how we're going to be able to generate change in the world of matter, right? So one of the things he talks about, obviously we know this, right? Like any of these teachings are going to be coming at this from using their own language, but essentially saying the same thing. So like with Frederick Dodson, we're continuing because we're continuing to embody this one viewpoint, or as Joe Dispenza would say, personality, or as Neville Goddard would say, state, right? And so we're going to keep getting the same, right? And we may want something better. We may want to make more money. We may want to have a healthier relationship. But the fact is that we are creatures of survival. We are creatures that seek to have homeostasis. We go towards what is comfortable naturally to us. And so by not drawing our awareness back to where and resuming power over our consciousness, and that's what we talked about in recent videos, is like, are you allowing your attention and your awareness to be diverted to this and to this and to this? We talked in a recent video about how the media, our environment, unfortunately, is primarily negative. And if we are being led around by the environment, whether it's the people around us, whether it is the media that we're entertaining, whatever it is that we are entertaining in our awareness, it's going to stimulate us based on desire and based on fear. And then we're going to flip-flop back and forth between these polarities, right? And you notice that this is generally the state that most people are in. They have these big highs followed by these big lows. And a lot of people kind of maybe rest more in that lowness area when they're in a state of depression or whatever. But that is essentially, when you look around, that's what you see. You see that people are led by their emotions. They're not in control of their emotional states. And they are basically at the effects of the environment. They are simply being led around by, sparkly thing over here, shiny object syndrome. And then, I'm so scared of this because, and all the doom scrolling and this and catastrophizing. And we all, unfortunately, that is part of, our hardwiring, because we grew up in tribes and we had to pay attention to a predator, to, a nice shiny piece of fruit or food or whatever, right? Like these are hitting on our most primal triggers, but it enters us into a state of survival, right? It is this survival-based mechanism which we get drawn back into by hooking our attention with this thing, this valuable thing, or this thing that causes us to be in the state of lack, or the state of fear, or the state of anxiety, right? And so we see how this plays out in so many different things, whether it is us going for our dreams, whether it's us going for our goals, or whether it is us getting attracted or being in a toxic relationship that is, it's like the love bombing followed by the, oh no, like, and you hear this with women a lot, that, women will be posting like these things on TikTok and stuff. And it happens for men too. I'm not saying that men are like immune to this flip-flopping between the polarities, but I notice it happens a lot with women where they're like, oh yeah, the guy, he was like telling me all this, but then he just left me on red, or he ghosted me. And it's like, you see that as human beings, we then become hooked by this flip-flopping of the polarity. We think that we are in love. We mistake that for love, when really it's this attachment that's based on the flip-flopping between the desire and the fear and the like overstimulation on here and so it's like a healthy relationship is not going to be putting you like ping-ponging back and forth between these two emotions so much. A healthy relationship is going to be based on both people valuing each other, right? They're not going to be constantly trying to make the other people feel so insecure and uncertain and devalued and all of these things, right? So it's across the board. You see how these patterns play out, and a lot of it, obviously, it stems from childhood. It stems from things that have occurred in the past. The point being, though, we kind of know this, right? And Joe Dispenza goes into a lot of this background and a lot of the science and all this stuff. Really, though, what's the solution here, right? What is the way that we address this and actually move past this state of survival-based fight or flight type thinking? And the answer is that we have to enter into that state of thought. We have to enter into the realm. We have to detach from all the material. What do I have to do today? And do I have to send this email? And do I have to like all these things, the habits which make up our character and our personality and who it is that we are, the embodiment, the personality that we have become, which is an amalgamation of all of these different things, and detach from all of it and enter into that state of pure consciousness. That is, from a quantum physics perspective, it's where we exist as a wave, right, rather than a particle, because the wave collapses into a particle, and that is matter, right? So without getting like super into all that, the point being is that we do this by getting into a meditative state, or a state akin to sleep, as Neville Goddard would say. And again, that type of hypnotic state, and this is why hypnosis is really kind of underrated as far as I'm concerned, at least in this community online, because I think it gets like a bad rap, hypnosis, NLP, these things, because of all the connotations of stage hypnosis and stuff like that. But really, whether it's a guided meditation or hypnosis, if you can find something like that, because that is what he does in his workshops. He takes people through this guided meditation. That's what Joe Dispenza does. And then he has all the scientific proof and readings of people changing their brain waves and changing their emotional states. And he's got all these testimonies of people healing themselves, right? From all sorts of disease, but just mental disorders, like all kinds of things, right? And so obviously this stuff is working. And so what I would recommend doing, because he has some, right, in this course that I'm going through, like he has his own. And yeah, obviously these things get results for some people, but I've read reviews because I was listening to his meditations, and I was kind of like, this is kind of weird. You can find some of them online. He kind of talks in this weird, like alien type sounding voice. And it's honestly, like, for me, it's not necessarily my cup of tea. I feel like there's other guided meditations that I found online. I specifically have been listening to ones by this guy named Joe Gallenberger, and he works with the Monroe Institute, where they do binaural, they call it hemisync, which is, it's binaural brainwave patterns. So it's like, it relaxes the mind. It's deliberately designed to do to put you into this state where you are in this kind of, all these people talk about this, right? Whether it is Jose Silva, he calls it the alpha state of mind. Obviously, Neville calls it the state akin to sleep. Frederick Dodson has the pure technique. If you are into hypnosis, then you are in a trance, a hypnotic trance, hypnotic inductions. All of these things are different languages, different languaging for the same thing, which is getting out of this fight or flight survival-based thinking of beta brainwave frequency, getting into that state of mind where now we can create. Now we're in that state of non-matter. We're entering into the state of pure consciousness, right? And so I would just recommend finding guided meditations that you resonate with. I've actually created a couple, specifically the ones I've done. There's a couple with pink noise that are literally just to get you into the state akin to sleep. And so I've designed them. I can leave a link up here for you guys if you guys want to check those out. But really, whatever you find, if you already have some that work for you, that's all well and good as well. And listen to those. And as you're doing this, get into that place where you are now envisioning what it is that you're wanting to create in your life. If you're engaged in the affirmation practice, this is a great time as well to seed those affirmations in there. Whether it is visuals that you're entertaining. And I find by getting into this hypnotic trance-like state akin to sleep, whatever you want to call it, it's a lot easier to get into that state where you're almost like receiving these types of visuals. I know a lot of people say they have trouble visualizing and stuff like this. Well, I can see how that would be, especially if you're in this state, right? If you have not entered into that state akin to sleep, it is harder to visualize because you're just thinking, your mind's racing. And what I have had success with, and obviously this is what Joe Dispenza does, it's like if you listen to a guided thing, well, now it shuts off that logical mind too that's like, oh, am I meditating right? Because that's another thing people get caught up with is like, if you're just silently meditating to yourself, which works for a lot of people, but for me personally and a lot of other people that I've spoken to, and it seems to be the case with, is also that mind creeps in, is like, oh, am I doing this right? And so the guided meditation, what's so cool about this, or the hypnosis, is that it alleviates all those doubts or fears, or if you're not doing it right. It kind of just guides you gently, and especially if it is designed in this way, like I said, with the binaural beats, or just the relaxing 432 hertz music, whatever it is that you find, and you listen to somebody's voice that's actually relaxing you, that actually you feel peace and you feel that calm state. Now you're just allowing it to happen. You don't have to focus on it. You can completely let go. At least that's what I find for myself. And really just allow yourself to have that experience of entering into the state of no mind, or I guess that's one way of saying it, but no matter, as Joe Dispenza would say. So this is kind of like, when you do this, now you're tuning into new timelines, as Frederick Dodson would say, or you're tuning into a new personality. You're tuning into new potentials, as Joe Dispenza would say. You are entering into entertaining the ideas, the body sense as well, of this new vision that you're creating for your life. And again, it can be anything. Whether it is that you want to be going on this nice vacation, this nice trip, you're imagining that. Your senses, because you are entered into this state where you are not engaged with the physical 5, 6 senses, whatever. Now you are allowing that sensory information to come in almost like in a dream state, almost like having a lucid dream. And that's why dreams are so powerful. They feel so real, because you are completely detached from the outer reality. And so getting into this, now you're really able to kind of adopt that new viewpoint, adopt that new body sense, adopt that new state of awareness, and just allow it to be. And the more that you do this, if you develop a practice where you're doing this every day, in the morning or in the evening before you go to bed, you're really gonna start to feel, because I've been doing these guided meditations, hypnosis, whatever you wanna call it, and it's been awesome. It just puts me if I do it in the morning, it gets my day started off by on a really good footing. If I do it at night, I feel like I really wake up refreshed. I wake up with that positive energy, because I'm entertaining those new potentials rather than looking at essentially the past. Because if we're looking at the physical current environment that we're in, we're looking at the past. Another thing that's cool, obviously there's so many different ways of going about cementing in this new viewpoint. And I've discussed those in a recent video about cementing in your robotic affirmations, but just going somewhere new, just going into nature, going on a trip somewhere, going to a place you haven't been to, engaging in a new activity. You know, that's one reason that I took up boxing recently, is because that is just a new thing. Like my past personality, or in the past, I had done boxing like in high school as like a fun thing, just like, you know, just for fun, like at a party, but I've never actually done it in a capacity where I'm actually learning how to do it. And so I've been doing that and doing like dancing, and then I'm have some trips planned coming up, but I'm in a different environment, right? I switched up my environment here. And so all of these different things can help us tune into those new potential, because essentially, you know, in the words that Joe Dispenza uses, when we keep going into the same routine, we're just led by our habits. We go to get coffee at the same place every day. We go through the same motions. And not to say that it's not good to have a routine, because it definitely is, but it definitely is good as well to mix it up a little bit and to do some things, insert some things into the routine or into what we're doing that allow us to tune into that new potential. Otherwise, we are, you know, we're really just going over the same habits over and over again in the same way, where we're not allowing for those new potentials to kind of exist as new potentials in the reality that we're creating. So yeah, you know, I hope this video kind of gives you guys some inspiration. I can link down below. There's also I believe that the Monroe Institute has like an app where you can download, or you can pay monthly and then have access to their guided meditations, but there's tons of them free on YouTube. And yeah, you know, like if you kind of adopt this practice with the guided meditations, guided hypnosis, and like I said, I'll leave a link as well to the one that I created down below, you're going to just feel, you're going to be able, in my opinion, to get into that state akin to sleep easier a lot of times, because a lot of the times our brains are racing. It's very hard to turn the brain off, but when we are listening to that relaxing music and being led through the voice, through our headphones, in that state, it's easier to allow yourself to just slip into that state. So that is essentially like the meat and potatoes of what is going on in this course. Now, his course here is like hundreds and hundreds of dollars, and obviously, like I said, there's a lot more information that he gives, but essentially this is really what it is. It's really just like the bulk of it is like, oh, here's all the science proving all of this stuff, right? And so it's like, once you accept that and you kind of are just like, okay, he's got a point, like he's got the facts, he's pulling up the evidence here. Now this is like what he gives you, and he gives you a few different meditations. He's got like one called Tuning into New Potentials. He's one, there's a couple of those, and then he has like a couple other ones like the Abundance Meditation, but like I said, they're not really like, I've listened to them and they're not really as good as some of the other ones that I like. So really it's up to you to find the ones that you like and then rock with those. Now, I'm going to be doing actually a video soon comparing Neville Goddard's state akin to sleep exercise or technique, whatever you want to call it, to Frederick Dodson's pure technique. So look out for that. I'm going to compare them. In my mind, there's not that much difference between them, but it's going to be an interesting breakdown to compare the similarities, the differences, and so you guys can kind of make a decision on how you want to go about this practice if you choose to use one of their techniques for this. With that being said, guys, much love as always. Drop this video with a like, hit me with a subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.